So I figured with the final ever Star Wars, until of course the next one, just on the horizon, I'd do a little retrospective of what I think of the Star Wars movies, so you can kind of get my full thoughts on this franchise as a whole, with this little Star Wars retrospective series, I guess. Keep in mind, while I am a fan of the Star Wars movies, that's about it. I don't really know much about extended lore, Knights of the Old Republic, the video games, the books. I'm not someone that's researched into every facet of Star Wars. And ultimately, I care more about these films being good movies than I do about them being logical within the science of the Force or anything like that. So as per, the norm, my opinions are going to be a bit strange and aren't necessarily going to reflect yours, but I don't see why that has to be a bad thing. I mean, who wants to watch something that's just completely predictable, right? So sit back, relax, subscribe. We're going to be looking at Star Wars. Once again, this video is sponsored by NordVPN, and you can get 4 months free with a 3-year subscription by using my discount code. Everything you need is in the description below, so check it out. Alright, onwards. So let's begin this at the beginning. Not the beginning of the story, but the beginning of the film franchise. So I will be going in the order of which the films came out. It begins with just Star Wars. That's it. That's all it's called. Star Wars Episode 4 was just called Star Wars when it came out. And I'm a bit of a Puritan in that regard. I refer to it as just Star Wars generally. But I know that it later coined the name A New Hope just for the sake of not being confusing. Makes sense. It's not something I'd ever complain about. I just like to refer to it as Star Wars because it's just like, it's the original. Now, I think much of the whole appeal of Star Wars was the fact that we kind of gelled two genres together. We've got the setup and location of the sci-fi genre, but we've got all the codes and conventions of the action and adventure and fantasy genres. While we've got spaceships and planets and stars, you've also got conventional character archetypes, such as the sort of homegrown everyman destined to do more with his life, destined to be a hero. He's a young guy, he doesn't want to just be stuck doing chores for his aunt and uncle, he wants to do adventure. So we've got a hero that we can kind of relate to in this regard. And the film has no trouble setting that up, but not before setting up the immediate threat. And it's one of the oldest tropes in the book. A princess has been captured by the main villain, and this everyday hero will rise up against all odds to save her. Princess Leia, though, is not your typical damsel in distress. She's a bit more plucky than that, and has no qualms with standing up to the likes of the evil Darth Vader, our imposing dark pillar of an evil order, the Empire, whose goal is to bring their own vision of law and order to the galaxy. And it doesn't matter who has to die in the process. And they're building this Death Star with the capability of destroying planets. And one of the planets that gets destroyed is Princess Leia's homeworld of Alderaan. So it's a very high stakes movie that in some ways, while doing it on this big intergalactic scale, does kind of reflect our own realities. There are definitely noticeable parallels between the Empire and the Nazis. As Star Wars as a franchise has always taken kind of a stand against real-world totalitarian regimes. So it's kind of a mesh of all these different ideas, the sci-fi setting, the fantasy genre, the political ideologies, all rolled into this little ball that Hollywood thought was way too risky to put out at the time. And then what do you know, it turned out to be a massive success because it was exciting and people could actually relate to it. Now, in spite of being the kind of everyday hero that feels destined for adventure, Luke Skywalker is actually kind of forced into the battle after his aunt and uncle are, well, goodbye, and he meets the wise old sage Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, obviously Luke Skywalker has questions about his parentage, his background, and it transpires that Obi-Wan Kenobi is very much a big part of that, as Obi-Wan knew Luke's father when they were younger, and according to him, Darth Vader killed Luke Skywalker's father. What Luke needs to do to take on Darth Vader and the Empire is to learn to use the Force, which is the ability to kind of control the surroundings and environment around us. But the Force has two sides, the light side and the dark side. Luke must learn the ways of the Jedi and remain on the light side of the Force, where Darth Vader is very much on the dark side, as he follows the traditions of the Sith. It's all very nicely set up, especially with that opening shot, which tells us everything we need to know about the film. After the titles roll, telling us a little bit about the background of this story, setting it all up, we get a shot of an Empire Star Destroyer taking on a smaller ship and chasing it through the galaxy. The Star Destroyer absolutely dwarfs it. It basically is like a metaphor that can summarize this entire franchise from here. This giant titanic empire is chasing down a little resistance. So along the way to Leia's rescue, Luke meets roguish pilot Han Solo, who also happens to be a massive dork, who will help them along the way, with his beloved ship, the Millennium Falcon, and his faithful friend Chewbacca. Han Solo kind of marches to the beat of his own drum. He doesn't pledge allegiance with the Jedi or the Sith, he doesn't use the Force, he's a little bit morally grey, he just kind of prides himself in doing his own thing. Together, Luke, Han, Obi-Wan, Chewbacca, and their droid friends C-3PO and R2-D2 join the Resistance, infiltrate the Death Star, rescue Princess Leia, and confront Darth Vader. But why was Princess Leia kidnapped? Because she had the plans to the Death Star that could expose the weaknesses for the Resistance to destroy it. After years apart and their long history together, Obi-Wan and Darth Vader meet again and throw down in our very first lightsaber duel. By today's standards, this lightsaber duel is nothing special. In fact, it's the worst one probably. Obviously, Darth Vader's costume was pretty restricting and Alec Guinness wasn't much of a stuntman, so it was kind of just this very unrefined, turns-based tapping of swords, basically. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the Jedi weapon, the lightsaber. It's a sword, but it's lasery, and that's cool. It's another... I feel like the lightsaber is kind of the metaphor for what Star Wars is. It's sword and sorcery, but it's space, and it's intergalactic, and it's future-based. So Darth Vader successfully defeats Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan goes down, filling Luke with anguish. Luke, Han, and Leia escape while the Resistance destroy the Death Star. Luke and Han are then honored as heroes by Princess Leia in front of a procession and awarded with medals. Now, I'm not going to give a story analysis for all of the Star Wars movies. I'm just kind of going for this one as it does lay down the groundwork of things to come. I think once you've properly explored this film, you can then kind of make quick work of the others. You can build forwards from this with the sequels to it, and then build backwards from it with the prequels. Now, it is kind of interesting that the title at the beginning of this says it's Episode 4, because obviously there hadn't been a Star Wars film before this. So why Episode 4? Well, George Lucas knew that he wanted an episodic franchise, but he wanted it to start in the middle because the middle is where the interesting stuff happens. Hence why it's called Episode 4. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I don't think this is that clever, to be honest. This film feels pretty self-contained. There's a threat, there's a damsel in distress, and there's a team. The team rescues the damsel in distress and takes down the threat, they get a hero ceremony, and it ends. You don't really necessarily need to know where that threat has come from. You don't really necessarily need to know the story of how these characters were born. We just really... where we start here is just fine. It must have been called Episode 4 simply because they had the intention of making prequels episodes 1 to 3 all along, but there are kind of conflicting reports as to what the intentions were with this franchise. Some say George Lucas always intended on 9 films, some say it was just this 3. Evidence kind of suggests that it was always intended to be just 6, because really, 6 films is really more than all the movie you need for Star Wars. Now, I'm not going to level this whole thing as a criticism against it, like, that's just silly. It's a number. And I can definitely see logic behind it, and it's definitely more what the intentions were going forward. But can you imagine if this franchise hadn't taken off? And then boom, the only episode of it is Episode 4. I mean, I guess there'd be some interesting cult theories about it, like, oh, where are the other episodes? Maybe this number was part of the device to get people wanting more. But I mean, of course people wanted more. You make a movie like that, of course people want more. Star Wars was like nothing we had ever seen before. Or, well, audiences that were alive in the 1970s. And obviously they were just dying for more like it. So of course there would be more. And those prayers were answered with the Empire Strikes... No, the Star Wars Holiday Special. Oh god. This is the one that George Lucas wants to forget. The Star Wars Holiday Special was basically your usual holiday variety hour, except it was 2 hours, and it was a televised thing, as a way of sort of celebrating Thanksgiving. Yeah, common misconception, it wasn't a Christmas special, it was a Thanksgiving special. As a British guy, it's kind of strange to me that more people aren't aware of that. Then again, I'm only aware of it through research. But I mean, it just feels more Thanksgiving-y, you know, and it doesn't actually center around a real-life holiday, it centers around Life Day, a tradition in the Star Wars universe where they celebrate life. And this movie is centered entirely around Chewbacca and his family. Remember the growling rabbit from the first movie? We liked him as a character there because he was cute. Now imagine having the entirety of the plot dedicated to him and a spoof of your average sitcom family, all of which just growling at each other, and we're supposed to have any clue what's going on. Now, of course, I can tell what's going on because I'm an intellectual. Nah, like, you can make it out, but they really are just the bread and butter of this special. The whole thing is Chewbacca wants to go home to the Wookiee planet for... hang on. Life Day. Han wants to turn back, but Chewie wants to go home. And his family are anxiously awaiting his arrival, contacting a number of different people, hoping they can get some information as to where he is. They're worried about him. And then the whole thing is that they all come together, and there are some orbs, and Leia sings a song, which turns out to be a vocalized version of the Star Wars theme music, but it's a Life Day song. And Mark Hamill's in more makeup than your average Essex strumpet, sadly to cover up his recent injuries after a car accident. And between all that, we have all these different segments, where the Wookiees are watching stuff on TV. There's a bit with some dancers. Alright then. There's a really weird cooking show, which it just... okay, thank you. It isn't funny at all, but it's there. And there's this little animated segment which feels like a very, very cheaply made Saturday morning pilot with kind of the budget of a breakfast cereal commercial. And that's easily the highlight of it. So, after that holiday special, naturally everyone's reaction was, what the fuck was that? I'm honestly surprised this didn't tarnish public opinion so much to the point that they couldn't make the next cinematic release. But Hollywood works in mysterious ways, and audiences were blessed with a sequel. The Empire Strikes Back, which is a significantly more small-scale, intimate story, and it's a lot darker. The Empire are still out there, and they are not done. Not by a long shot. As the Resistance, including Luke, Leia, and Han, are ambushed on the snow planet of Hoth by AT-AT walkers. And this was the first appearance of the AT-ATs in the Star Wars franchise, which went on to become a fan favorite. Han and Leia make a break for it in the Millennium Falcon, while Luke travels to the Dagobah system in search of his new trainer, Yoda, so he can continue to practice the ways of the Jedi and finally be ready to defeat Darth Vader once and for all. And that's where we meet Yoda, another fan favorite character. He kinda looks like a combination between Gizmo and a Brussels sprout, but don't let that fool you, this guy is all kinds of powerful. But he's also lovable too. He's kind of like a creaky old man with kind of a mischievous sense of humor, and he kind of takes the role of the wise old sage. While he trains Luke to confront Darth Vader, Han and Leia have to maneuver through all of the dangers of the universe, as well as the Empire, battling all kinds of monsters, before Han decides to seek refuge at Cloud City to meet his friend Lando Calrissian. Unbeknownst to them though, the Millennium Falcon was tracked by bounty hunter Boba Fett, one of the many bounty hunters Darth Vader sent after the Falcon. And it all transpires that this is an ambush from Darth Vader, who intends to use Han and Leia as bait for Luke Skywalker, with Vader intending to encase Luke in carbonite and using Han Solo as a test subject. Meaning that the fan favorite rogue is, yes, encased in carbonite, and effectively killed off. After a premonition, Luke gives chase, and finally, duels with Darth Vader. Vader disarms Luke by severing his right hand, and it's here we get the big reveal, the big twist of the movie that nobody wanted spoiled. Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father. So Luke chooses to take a dive at this point, and drops himself down the central air shaft of the city. He grabs onto an antenna and holds there, and he uses the Force to signal Princess Leia. She receives his signal, so does that mean she's Force sensitive? After Obi-Wan told Yoda that Luke was their last hope, Yoda did say there is another. Ooh. You only need to put 2 and 2 together there, and you get a big twist. And I really love the fact that they haven't gone and spelled it out in an explicit way. It's subtle, I like that. We don't need some scene of Leia flying into space after nearly dying. And I'm sure as hell glad they didn't do that. The revelation is handled so subtly here, so nuanced. So Luke is rescued, and he gets a robotic replacement hand, and R2-D2 makes sure that the Falcon cannot be detected by the Empire. The trail has gone cold, and the hunt continues, and that's the end of the movie. Most people herald The Empire Strikes Back to be the best Star Wars movie and the superior sequel to the original, and honestly, I agree. While most of the film takes place on board the Millennium Falcon and inside the swamp of the Dagobah system, there's definitely much more of a sense of survival in this film than there was the previous. There's never a quiet moment. There's no exploding planets or gigantic space bases. We don't have rebels whizzing around the Death Star destroying it. It's far more intimate, but it's intimate with characters that we've gotten to know in the previous movie and grown to love here. And it's just this big intergalactic chase. It's kinda like No Country for Old Men, but in space. The Empire Strikes Back definitely averted expectation, and proved that bigger isn't always better, as well as that it is the debut of a lot of fan-favorite characters, Boba Fett, Yoda, the AT-ATs. It's in this movie that we see that Darth Vader is subservient to Emperor Palpatine, and this is where he makes his debut appearance. Darth Vader actually has a bigger role in this one, and we get to know him a little better. And of course, we get one of the most iconic lines of dialogue in any film, "Luke, I am your father." The Empire Strikes Back is simply sensational, and it has that sort of dark second act feel to it. So, all that's left to do is bring it all home with the fourth movie. But Pup, it's 3 movies, you can't count. I am sadistic, and for that reason we are counting the holiday special. Return of the Jedi, the finale of the Skywalker saga, the definitive ending. Nothing else could come after this ever. Nothing. There could never be another one. The ending of the war. The Star War, to be specific. This threat is definitely going down in this one. This specific threat, Palpatine and his Empire. This is indeed the big finale of all that. Definitely. For it is the only credible way to truly end it. Now, Return of the Jedi was, well, shall we say, not as appreciated as the other 2 Star Wars movies. As a kid, I liked it just as much as Empire. As an adult, I can kind of see where the cracks are now. So there's a line of dialogue in Empire Strikes Back, where Boba Fett goes to take the bounty money from Jabba the Hutt in exchange for Han Solo. And the first act of this film very much focuses on that, with Luke going to rescue Han Solo, and also Princess Leia, who is now the slave to Jabba the Hutt. Jabba the Hutt is this big, gluttonous, fat-ass slug guy, who speaks a funny language, and he's just all kinds of repulsive. Fun fact, Jabba was originally supposed to appear in the original Star Wars, and he was going to be very, very different. A lot more humanoid. This scene was later reinstated in the remastered editions, with a CGI'd version of the final Jabba the Hutt design, which I guess gives a little more context as to why Jabba the Hutt wants Han Solo, so it doesn't come completely out of left field. See, I'm acknowledging some positive things about the remastered editions. I'll talk a little bit more about that later, though. So the rescue takes place with a final confrontation above a Sarlacc pit, and it goes for kind of a space piratesy kind of a vibe. Once Han and Leia are rescued, the Resistance set up camp on the forest moon of Endor, home of the Ewoks, while Luke goes back to the Dagobah system to complete his training with Yoda. But, little hitch here, Yoda's dead. Well, dying. He died in that scene. Yoda confirms to Luke that yes, Vader is his father. Ooh, bombshell there. But assures Luke that he's ready. Oh my god, this isn't gonna be popular. Have I really been referring to the Rebel Alliance as the Resistance all this time? Oh no. Oh no. I've recorded 17 minutes of this shit. Now it's a waste. It's ruined. It's all over. I am a disgrace to this fandom's whole platform. Gotta delete my channel. You are a failure. You fucking idiot. It's all a waste. So the Rebel Alliance uncover the Empire's plans to build a new Death Star, and they gotta destroy it all over again. Blah 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 bikes, blah 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 Ewoks. Luke breaks the news to Leia that he is her brother and Vader is both of their father, which is gross because they totally kissed, but well, what can I say? A family that plays together stays together. You are truly disgusting. Oh my god. You are you are the worst YouTuber. I am unsubscribing. That is very unprofessional. I'm getting burnt out, I'm not gonna lie. So, the Death Star plays host to the final battle, where Emperor Palpatine and Darth Vader both confront Luke Skywalker, as they try and tempt him to the dark side and unleash his inner anger. Vader definitely touches a nerve with Luke when Vader tells him that if he doesn't turn him to the dark side, he can always try for Leia instead. And Luke just beats him into submission, with Palpatine confident that Luke's fury will make him a better leader of the Empire than Darth Vader. But when things don't go his way, Palpatine decides to electrocute Luke, which snaps a sense of empathy into Darth Vader, who then throws Emperor Palpatine over into the core of the Death Star, and Vader is redeemed before his death. Right. This is the reason why I thought this was the best Star Wars movie as a kid. This third act battle aboard the Death Star 2 is just amazing. Vader just taunting Luke, Palpatine just watching in the wings, Luke getting totally triggered and going berserk on Darth Vader. Oh man, just like, I know it's not the most choreographed battle in the world. I know a lot of people say, yes, the prequels had better action because they're more choreographed, but for me, this is the best lightsaber battle because it's raw emotion. Luke is just pounding Vader into submission. And the score in this scene is just, I haven't talked about the music at all, have I? Alright, well obviously it's iconic. Like many John Williams scores, it's iconic. You've got the theme of the Force, you've got the theme of the Rebel Alliance, you've got the theme of the Empire, the Imperial March. It's amazing. And my favorite track in all of Star Wars is the one when Vader and Luke fight for the final time and Luke is just trying to basically murder this guy. Back on the forest moon of Endor, celebrations are had. Palpatine is dead, definitely dead. They'll never be seeing him again. They defeated him. They definitely will live to see the day when he is defeated. Han and Leia confess their love, and if you watch the remastered editions, you can actually see the celebrations going off across the entirety of the Star Wars galaxy, which is another change I didn't actually mind that much. I mean, yeah, it feels stylistically inconsistent because most of the original movies relied on practical effects. Here you've got a lot of CGI going into it, but I can see what it's supposed to represent, and I really don't mind that. Although I do think retroactively changing movies is... No, it's still not that bad. But there should at least be a very easy option of watching the originals, which there wasn't at the time of the remastered editions, as it seemed Lucasfilms were doing all that they could to phase them out. Also, we see the redeemed Force ghost of Anakin Skywalker side by side with the Force ghost of Obi-Wan and Yoda. They're all reunited like a little family, and that's so nice. I mean, it's bullshit. Darth Vader did totally commit mass genocide, destroyed planets, led a fascist organization. I mean, like, do you think Hitler could be redeemed? So, in that case, why should Darth Vader? I mean, okay, Vader was the one to put an end to it, but, like, never mind. In the remastered edition, they replaced the Force Ghost of the aged Anakin with the Hayden Christensen version, which doesn't make sense because that's not how the Force Ghosts work. So, okay, that one I would call egregious. In fact, yeah, while we're at it, let's talk about some of those remastered editions. So, yeah, I would say they are inferior to the original films overall. There are some changes there that on paper I don't think are the worst ideas, such as the re-inclusion of Jabba the Hutt in A New Hope, as well as the significantly larger scale celebration at the end of Return of the Jedi. But it's a lot where it's kind of just like, oh yeah, here's like a perfectly normal scene, let's just add a load of special effects to it for some reason. Also, Han shooting first does matter because it says more about his character and his moral allegiance, where the other characters were a bit more cut and dry. Right, well that's a bit of a dour note to end on. So that was the original Star Wars. And next time I do one of these, it will be based around the prequels. What do you guys think? Comment below and discuss, and as always, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, don't forget to hit subscribe, hit the like button, and in the description below is the link to my Patreon. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and have a great day. That's a cute outfit. Did your husband give it to you? Because you could get a way better costume from Zentai Zone. Check out their range of custom-made, tailored superhero costumes. Ridiculously good quality, value, and customization. Link is in the description below, as well as my coupon code CHANNELPUP, where you can get a discount off of your purchase. And while you're at it, why not get your suit designed by my talented buddy Dan from New Blood Dan's workshop? You can contact him via the link in the description below. Seriously guys, you do not want to miss out on your chance to be your favorite superhero and feel authentic and professional. And you don't want to miss out on that Channel Pup discount.